We had few clients which were using this method to produce ethylene from ethanol. So ethanol to ethylene is not challenging in a proven step. And then we come to ethylene to dimerizing and becoming C4 molecules. That is also commercially and industry proven process. And there are few licenses already having established such commercial scale of plants. And then further downstream of dimerization, that is oligomerization, is also an industry proven process. Now coming to SAF, which requires integration of all these steps together, which is being done for the first time. Anything being done for the first time, of course, needs to be seen that what challenges it can pose. My colleague Mr. Vineet, who is also working for such licensing company, can further elaborate on this subject. But only challenge that remains to be seen is that such steps are being integrated for the first time for commercial production of SAF, and as and when we integrate, we'll identify those bottlenecks and try to resolve them sequentially. But of course, chemistry-wise, all three steps are well proven and commercially operating at one location or another. So that way we don't see any major such kind of challenge.
Very well put forward that obviously that this is just a start and just to meet the current targets, the current blending ratios, co-processing might be a proven pathway, but to progress ahead we need to see for the other technology pathways as well. So for speaking on the other technology pathway, we have with us Mr. Vineet Bakshi, Director of Business Development of LanzaJet and LanzaTech. I'll ask him his views. Being in LanzaJet has been advancing the alcohol to jet route, which is seen as promising pathway for SAF. Could you briefly outline where the technology current stands in terms of readiness and what key milestones are needed before large-scale commercial rollout?
First and foremost, Ekta, thanks for having us here. Thanks to the organizers. So, LanzaJet's technology, we are unique in a position that the only company, as Mr. Mahmood also mentioned, so far to have an integrated alcohol to jet facility on ground. And while in bits and pieces the technology may have been proven by other licenses, but the challenge is to bring them all together at one place. And that's what we have been doing at Freedom Pines. So far, the only facility in the world to have an integrated alcohol to jet plant. And we are in advanced stage of production. The first section has already been stabilized, and if all goes well, it could be that maybe within a month, we may have the first SAF out from a non-oil-based plant. And the plans are pretty simple that, run Freedom Pines, stabilize it, replicate the same along with the help of our partners. And we do see a lot of potential of replicating the same facility, and especially like when you talk about a place like India, where ethanol supply chain is already well established, like once we reach 20% on blending. So that can be further leveraged and a value-added proposition for everyone who wants to go beyond ethanol. And that's what we have an offering for anybody who wants to deploy our technology. And while there are many technology made in alcohol to jet, there are a couple of uniqueness which we have in our technology is that the kind of flexibility and scale you bring in. In our technology, like we don't make any lighters or anything else. It's only 90% SAF and 10% of renewable diesel. In case you have market demands and any project developer wants to alter it, you can even go for a 75 and 25 split of making 75% renewable diesel. The SAF which we make is 95% more clear of the particle emissions, and the contrails are 95% less. That was certified by NRC Canada. We, to be honest, we piloted and demonstrated this technology as early as 2016, and then we applied for certification. It took us a couple of years. Around 2017-18, our the SAF made from our pathway it was clear for 50% blending, and then we undertook several transatlantic flights with Virgin and ANA, which were from Orlando to London and from Seattle to Japan. And once all that was done, we thought, setting up our own commercial plant. And the benefit, which Lanza Jet gives to any future project developer is that, we have, by setting up our own plant, we have kind of de-risked the technology, and it brings in the confidence in any other project developers who wants to leverage our technology for making SAF.
Thank you, Vinny. And though we see that currently globally that HEFA is the technology being used worldwide, but for the long run, all the studies that shows that ATJ will be the most promising technology to see. So we are all waiting for the first plant on ATJ to come up in the near future, and we can then roll down the walls. So now, moving from the proven technology pathways to having our own indigenous pathway, we have with Mr. Harinder Brushes. He is Director with Indian Institute of Petroleum, sir. IMB has been working on several innovative pathways for SAF. Could you share highlights of your DIL SAF technology and what makes it unique compared, except his name, the name is almost very unique, to other SAF production methods? Would the technology support in driving the cost of SAF down?
Thank you, Ekta, and thank you all the organizers, Airbus, Ficci, Indian Oil, for having this excellent initiative to showcase what India is doing on SAF. DIL SAF is a HEFA-based process, which is, the lowest hanging fruit if you want to transition to SAF. There are few advantages. The challenge is the feed, of course, but if government policies come and FSI plus the export of UCO is controlled, then India has a potential of about 3 million tons of UCO, which can produce roughly 1.5 million tons of SAF around. So that much is the lowest hanging fruit. It can be gone through co-processing, as IUCL is doing. That is the easiest way to do. You don't have to put any new plant. Or it can be done by a dedicated plant, as this SAF technology is there. And there is another competing HEFA technology, which is a two-step technology. This SAF is a single step. In only one reaction, you are doing the decarboxylation, hydrogenation, as well as isomerization. And this SAF has one more advantage, that the aromatic content in the SAF is present to some extent, which makes it very similar in composition to conventional ATF. So the seals, the other swelling characteristics of the fuels are not getting disturbed. So you can blend it more easily without having any problem in the aircrafts. So that is one point where you have advantages of SAF. Based on HEFA. The second advantage is our DIL SAF technology, the operating, since we are using only one reactor, so the OPEX is about 20% lower than the two-step process, as well as the CAPEX is about 10% lower. And one plant is coming in MRPL, which will be mechanically ready by September 2026, and it will operate by early 27. So, that is the case. Now the second point comes, why we want to use SAF. Our objective of using SAF is to minimize CO2 emission, right? So that is the first criteria. If you see all SAFs produced by different pathways, HEFA-based SAF has the lowest carbon footprint. If you compare with the conventional ATF, for every megajoule of energy, the conventional ATF is producing about 90 grams of CO2. Whereas, as per the CORSIA mandate, HEFA-based SAF produces about 13.9 grams of CO2 against that 90 grams. So the SAF we are producing by single step process is producing about 11.5 grams CO2. So the IAP technology is cost competitive, it is better in terms of CO2 emission also. That is one point. If you see the distribution of this 11.5 grams CO2 which is coming from our SAF, the major contribution is hydrogen. Right now we are using grey hydrogen for that. If we use green hydrogen for that, there is a potential to go to as low as 2 grams CO2 per megajoule of energy, which will be one of the lowest in the world somewhere. And we have planned to transition. In fact, after completion of this MRPL plant, the next stage is how to minimize that CO2 emission further. If you see other processes, there are 4 or 5 different routes through which you can make SAF. The other one, the next simplest one is the ethanol to jet, where you know we have a process of making ethanol from biomass, whether it's 1G or 2G. Then to oligomerize that ethanol into SAF, that is the other second easiest route. And then there is a third route where you gasify this surplus biomass, convert it into syngas, and then syngas to Fischer-Tropsch, and you make again SAF. That is the third route. And the fourth route is, which is the most challenging, is to convert carbon dioxide into SAF. That is called e-SAF, where you are using electricity, renewable electricity, you use it, and you convert that CO2 into methanol, and then you methanol plus green hydrogen, you make again olefins, MTO, methanol to olefin, and olefin oligomerization to SAF. So there are 4 or 5 different pathways, and in time to come, the availability of feedstock, the cost competitiveness, and the ease of making these products, and exactly meeting the specifications. Since meeting the specification is very important for aircraft aviation industries, so all those factors will come into, and no single process is going to supplement all the requirements. I was reading some articles, and I think by 2050, 40% of around world SAF production will be done by India. So India is going to be a hub for SAF production in time to come. And then no single process has the potential to cater that entire need of SAF requirement. So all processes will be competing with each other, but the easiest processes will be the first to popularize, like the HEFA-based processes, to the extent the feed is available, and then alcohol to jet, which is coming in a good way. After that, this syngas, gasification, biomass gasification to syngas, and e-SAF, those will be coming in future. So I think this is the whole gamut of SAF technologies available. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Joshi. This is very truly said that not a single pathway is not enough to meet the requirements. We need multiple more ASTM approved pathways for SAF production, and we are really proud that India has come up with its own indigenous pathway, which will make us SAF more cheaper than comparatively to other sources, and we look forward to that. Now moving on, when we are talking about pricing and cost, we should also focus on our end users. So we have here with us Mr. Nilay Ranjan, Head of Sustainability and CSR Air India. So I have the question for you, Mr. Nilay, that how do you prioritize SAF compared to other decarbonization levers like operational efficiency or offsetting?
So all the 4 levers for aviation sector is important. Other technology, because we have advantage in India, because we are all adding new fleets. Minister said 1,700 new fleets are ordered. So all the new fleets are the more fuel efficient, and they will actually saving 15 to 20% fuel. At Air India we have at 70% as a new engine fleet. So that we are already doing it enough for the decarbonization of the sector. The second lever also about operational efficiencies. All the green operating procedures are already rolled out, and we are working on. But to make it net zero, the 2 levers, as you rightly said, the SAF is important and the carbon offset. SAF is also very important because it reduces the carbon emissions, and everybody is saying that 80% has been reduced. But it is effective only when the supply chain can be strengthened. And if you look at this whole SAF ecosystems, there are 4 important factors in the SAF. One, as you, Minister also said that certification is an important bottleneck that was reduced. The second is about technology mature and how all the 4 pathway can be scalable so that supply chain can be streamlined and available to the airlines. And third important factor is the feedstock, because until the feedstock supply chain is not streamlined, whatever technology you develop, if the feedstock is not constant, you are not able to supply at the airport. And we have a consumer of the SAF or the jet fuel at the airport. So until the supply chain is not streamlined, we are not able to add value. It is important lever for decarbonization, but need to be add all the four levels at the same time, so affordable, better SAF is available to us, so we can blend and we can run it. So the mission of net zero can be only possible when SAF ecosystem is stabilized and matured, and all the four levels can be equally important for us.
Thank you, Nilesh. Now, talking about the feedstock aggregation and feedstock challenges for that, though you have already given your insights on that, Mr. Pakleja, but I would like to especially ask that feedstock availability is often cited as a bottleneck. How is IOCL looking at diversifying feedstock for future SAF production?
Regarding feedstock, as we are working on two pathways, first one, of course, is a quick and small one, that is UCO based. And Mr. Vishal has already indicated that we have enough potential of UCO available. Only thing is that so far there was no such demand created so far. So now that the demand is being created, we expect aggregation also to respond to that demand. And certain solid initiative has already been taken by few groups, and they have started yielding results also. So it is expected that as and when this demand is getting formed up, feedstock availability in form of right quality, right quantity aggregation of UCO also will respond to that demand. Now, only thing is that this has, in long run, UCO has certain limitations, so it cannot go beyond a particular quantity. So, of course, second pathway, producers need SAF, is also very promising. But there also, if you conceptualize a project, its viability not only depends on its technical bottlenecks, it has to work on all the three aspects: upstream, that is feedstock, then technology conversion or conversion, and then of course that suitable marketing infrastructure for upliftment of its product. Now UCO based units are having flexibility. If demand or somehow upliftment is obstructed, they can manage, they can stop UCO based and continue to make the traditional ATF. But for A to J route unit, when conceptualized and constructed, will depend solely on its, not only feedstock arrangement but also product upliftment arrangements. So now this is being done again for the first time. So we need to have some firm infrastructure in place, mechanism in place to ensure that right feedstock is made available. Of course, ethanol, if we see the capacity wise, we have enough capacity, but probably that capacity utilization so far is not up to the 100% of its physical availability of capacity. We have been using almost 50% of our available capacity. But now since demand is again getting created, and ethanol, of course, every ethanol cannot be used. Only ethanol which is having suitable lifetime life cycle emission carbon within limit, that is mainly I think sugar cane based ethanol, and then of course agri residue based ethanol. These kind of ethanol are suitable, and they are also approved by CORSIA for such kind of application. So these ethanol in right quantity, and then of course right mechanism in place to uplift the produced SAF, because these plants will not have that flexibility. If they start producing, they will produce 100% SAF, and this needs to be suitably dispersed to the right consumer. And then of course this can be supplemented by another discussion which is very prevailing nowadays, that is about book and claim. So if that also materialized, like in case of renewable electricity, the book and claim methodology is there existing, similar method can be adopted here, so that upliftment of product is also made easy, physical movement will not be required. So all those mechanisms in place probably will clear the path forward for production in the large quantities.
You rightly said, sir, that availability of feedstock and aggregation is not just geographically constrained, but it also has to look what can be done, what can be taken, and what will deal into the benefits for the users. So that is obviously you have to see what CORSIA says and what is allowed under it. So well said that point. So now moving on to Mr. Harinder Bush. Beyond DILSAF, what technological innovations from your research pipeline could help lower production costs or diversify feedstock availability?
First is the further reduction of CO2 footprint of the HEPA process. That is what we are doing for DILSA. And the second is we are working on eSAF also. See, we started working on DILSA in 2008. That was an Indo-Canadian joint project. Pratt and Whitney was part of that consortium in the very beginning. And it took about, how much time it took. So finally now this plant of MRP is going to come by next year end. Similarly, other processes also like ESAF or others. First thing is to optimize the processes, then you do techno-economic feasibilities. You see how much cost-wise it is going to be. And the second, what we are very interested is to do the complete LC analysis of every pathway. So that we really know. Just give you one example. Suppose ethanol, as Papneja ji told, that all ethanols are not same for SAF production. If you are talking of corn ethanol, that CO2 footprint is very high. So then it doesn't become a qualifying agent for making jet fuel from that kind of ethanol. So you need an ethanol which has low carbon footprint. Similarly, we do LC analysis of each and every pathway and see where first we do the LC analysis and see whether it is meeting the mandate or not for that criteria. And second is what is the principal contributor of CO2 emission in that particular mix of processes. So as I told you that in DILSA case, if you use grey hydrogen, that becomes one of the most prominent factor for CO2 contribution. So similarly, we are analyzing different pathways, and then we target those pathways where you have maximum possibility of reduction of CO2 emission. Ultimately, two SAF, one is having say 13 grams CO2 emission per megajoule, another is having, just for sake, say 26 grams. So if you blend 2% of that SAF against 1% of this, you are getting almost same CO2 mitigation. And the cost wise also you have to compute that how much, ultimately the objective is to mitigate CO2 emission. So if you are in the process of making SAF and in the overall process, if you are not reducing that CO2 emission, then you have to blend more to get the same benefit. So that is also to be kept in mind. So that times the price factor will also increase. Suppose our SAF is have to be mixed 2% to meet 1% of HEPA base, then the price is already 2 times more because you are putting 2% to get the same CO2 mitigation. So all those calculations are to be done before deciding which way to go. But yes, only HEPA will not serve as the feed availability. So many policy matters need to be regulated around that the adulteration of this feedstocks should not go to the food chain, which is not good for the people also, because it is not a good thing to enter into food chain. So those kind of policy regulations should come, then export control of these materials should come. So this is one criteria. The other one is we are trying to evaluate is the ESAF, where we want to use CO2, which is the prime concern, to convert it back into SAF and then see how well we can go for that.
Thank you, sir. Yes, it's very rightly said that your quality of SAF and how much reduction it is doing as per the life cycle emissions compared to the conventional jet fuel will truly decide how much quantity is required. Just for an example, if we consider that the SAF which we are producing is resulting in 80% of emission reductions, so we just worked out this calculation few days back. To reduce 1 ton of CO2, you would require around 400 to 500 kilograms of SAF if it is resulting in 80% emission reduction. Now if you scale it down to the level of 50%, it will be just double the amount. 600 grams around, kilograms, not grams. So yes, definitely that's a point. Now moving on to Air India, would you consider SAF a strategic competitive differentiator in the future?
Yes, ma'am, if it is affordable, because the whole sector is price sensitive. So until that is not at the right premium, because what my IOCL partner is saying that feedstock is available, but at what cost? If that eco is coming at a more price than what the actual cooking oil, then it has a food security effect also. Because people are not start selling the used cooking oil for home consumption, they start selling for the eco. So that is also very unique proposition, because if the feedstocks are not properly, whole supply chain is not streamlined, because we airlines run on the best of the customer. Customer is also price sensitive. So until unless with the larger premium, it is not a right solution, but equal, because it has a benefit in terms of carbon emissions. It is one of the instruments which help airlines also for participate in the decarbonization, but at the right premium.
Yes, affordability is very much important. Otherwise, the whole financial structure of an organization needs to rework its strategies. So yes, affordability is very much important. Now going to Mr. Vinny. As a global technology provider, how does LanzaJet view potential collaboration with Indian refiners, public sector units and research institutes for pilot or co-development of the projects?
If you look at LanzaJet, our entire approach is built on collaboration, right? So across the globe, we work with different project developers, government, airlines, and financial institutions. In fact, like Airbus is one of the investors in our company, and that's how we believe SAF will grow. And even if you look in India, there are two different ministries involved to ensure the SAF happens in India, right? And with respect to refiners, we are already engaged with IOC to explore a JV. The bidder is already underway, and also in talks with other refiners. We certainly believe, SAF, unlike ethanol, would be something, which not everybody would be able to afford. So you need to have deep pockets for that. And also, when you say refiners or the PSUs, they already have that kind of expertise. They have the infrastructure, to set in SAF projects. And beyond this, we are always open to explore collaboration on R&D, especially on the feedstock optimization, the process optimization, exploring different feedstocks. And as I said earlier, the way to go in deploying SAF is collaboration.
Yes, another very much important word is collaboration here. It's not just a one stakeholder's efforts. It's not just even two ministries. Yes, I agree that Ministry of Civil Aviation and Ministry of Petroleum are drivers for the SAF deployment in the country, but yet it would be governed by many other ministries such as Agriculture, Niti Aayog and Finance, Ministry of Finance for bringing financial instruments into it. So that definitely collaboration is the key to it. Now moving from collaboration again to the futuristic question to Mr. Pakneja, that we all know that co-processing is already being placed at the Panipat refinery. So what do you think the other technologies such as alcohol to jet route would be commercially viable?
Well, commercially viable, we have been indicating various aspects during our discussion. Co-processing, of course, is expected to be viable under the current scenario, wherein we have seen the SAF transaction in the market, not in India but in Europe, the way they are taking place. With those kind of pricing being realized, they are certainly going to be viable. And of course, they have a lot of operational flexibility also, so probably there should not be a challenge. But once we come on to a bigger projects like ethanol, alcohol to jet, we have been discussing here. All the three aspects needs to be looked into, and probably they all need to settle in due course. As mentioned, feedstock, of course, feedstock, but at the right price, right quantity and right price. That is very much required. Technologically, of course, whatever is required in terms of hardware, in terms of catalyst, that is not going to be a much challenge, it seems. But again, once we integrate all the 3-4 steps required, and then once we come to the marketing of the product, we have said, of course, continuous upliftment to to the extent of the whole capacity utilization of that project, because they are going to be the big project, to the extent of maybe 100 KTPA, maybe 200 KTPA kind of capacities. 200 is also not a very big for this kind of projects. So once we conceptualize those projects, then we start working, start executing those projects. So now pricing mechanism also needs to be fixed at such a platform that everybody is committing to those kind of mechanism. So feedstock at right cost, and then mixed with proper book and claim methodology, and then suitable mechanism for recruitment. All these things placed together will certainly make such project viable. And of course, since these are being done for the first time, so they need to be deliberated and mechanism needs to be fixed involving all agencies as you have indicated. They will be viable with all those examples.
Definitely, the pricing mechanism, the booking claim, ideologies, and also the roles and responsibility, I think surely will have a hand of that throughout the SAP policy in the coming future. Maybe we can get clarity on these subjects through that. And government is already, as said by our earlier dignitaries, that it is already under process. So we'll have more clarity on these subjects later. So now shifting to Mr. Harin Bashir sir again. How is IIP collaborating with industry players to take the technology of DILSA forward from lab to deployment? And also, what support do you believe research institutions like IIP will need from the government and industry to accelerate the commercialization?
Yeah, for DILSA, we already have one plant is coming, not very big plant, 9,000 tons per annum, but it's like a demo semi-commercial plant which is coming in MRPL. So that plant is already coming. So for this DILSA, Engineers in India Limited is our engineering partner. We are the technology provider. EIL is our engineering partner, and in this case MRPL is the industrial partner. And that process is available for other refineries also if anybody wants to put a plant for single step refine, which is the catalyst is our proprietary catalyst, and the process is entirely our own. This is one indigenous process which is competing with other HEPA-based processes around the world and coming as a result several times, as I discussed in the earlier question. Now, other than that, we, as I said, we are working with All India Limited for CO2 valorization and conversion to CO2 and other materials. We have a big internal project which is coming to start, and it's a big mission mode project where we are converting biomass to chemicals, surplus biomass. As Honorable Minister was telling, that we have such a huge amount of surplus biomass which is not getting utilized, and if it is decomposing itself, it will produce both methane and carbon dioxide. If it is burned, it will give you CO2. If you let it ferment and decompose, it will create more methane, which is a still potent greenhouse gas than CO2. So we are targeting that, and we are targeting all the routes. One is the hydrolysis route, where you can hydrolyze those biomasses to sugars, and then you convert those sugars to ethanol and other high value chemicals. The second is you gasify those biomass, convert it to syngas, and syngas to methanol is a known process which can be utilized. Only the challenges are how to gasify these biomasses, because the feed quality is not very consistent. Every time, best to best, there will be so much variation in the feed qualities, like moisture content, ash content, or the cellulose, hemicellulose, lignin ratios will be varying. So the process should be tolerant to all these changes, and this is the objective of our study, which we are doing. Initially, we are doing internally within CSIR. We have 37 laboratories which are having expertise in different areas. Some has expertise in gasification, like Simfer Dhamma. Then we have some labs which are very potent for marine and biomass, like CSNCR in Bhavnagar. We are in energy related areas. We are expert in NCL, National Chemical Laboratory, IICT. So many CSIR laboratories are working together on this project. And then we are inviting industrial collaborators also to join us in the very beginning, so that if you involve industry in the very beginning, then your project is getting the right direction, what industry is wanting actually. If you take everything in the platter and then go to industry, sometimes they don't like those things which you have put in the plate. So it's better to put everything together with the stakeholders so that ultimately the commercialization is fast track. So these are some of the areas where we are trying to work in future direction. Yes.
So again, we hear that collaboration is very much important and initiatives are very much important. Though our research institutions, they are not just working on just one pathway, which is HEFA or ATJ, but we are also looking forward to Fisher Trope, ESAP for the coming years, and definitely they look forward for the industry collaboration. So now shifting from collaboration, we'll talk more further with Mr. Vineet, that you consider the SAF cost gap remains a major barrier. From your perspective, what innovations, whether in process efficiency, integration with existing refineries or policy design, could help ATJ-based SAF more economically viable over time? And also, what support do you think would be needed to, in the technical terms or in the policy terms, to take this forward?
Ekta, I think it's a no-brainer that today if you look at the cost barrier, that exists in SAF, and that's one of the deterrent, in advancing SAF. But if you further deep dive, 70 to 75% of the cost comes from the feedstock cost, especially for ATJ, which is ethanol. So it depends on which source you are making ethanol and how you are making ethanol. And so if that can be improved along with the scale, certainly, we hope to bring down cost, and further integration with existing refineries and existing assets, will further help us bring down the cost of production, because we know, economy of scale always helps. And on the innovation front, like what we did end of last year was, along with LanzaJet's parent company, we came out with an offering named Circular. And what we do in that, we can mix, if you integrate LanzaTech's gas fermentation along with alcohol to jet technology of LanzaJet, you can make SAF from any waste carbon source. And when I say that, it could be industrial gases, it could be like flammable gases, which were erstwhile being flared, and they qualify under IQ feedstock also. And apart from that, you have agri waste, you have MSW available, you have a tipping field. So that makes ethanol production very attractive. Apart from that, if you don't have these gases, we through Circular offer hands down a very competitive and much more economical pathway than Fisher Trope. And I firmly believe, going forward, majority of SAF will actually come from e-SAF, or we call it the power to liquid. I think India, we already have green hydrogen available at a price of 3.9 to 4 without tax, right? And there are big firms, like Reliance and Adani, who are claiming that in the next 5 years the cost of green hydrogen can come down to less than 2. So, and Mr. also said, what better pathway, to not only capture your carbon, so it's a true, in a way, that will be true sequestration, true circular economy, and that will support this. So we are very well geared up for all that. And references do exist for both, and so for anybody who plans to deploy our technology, it could also be phase-wise. In first phase, you can only go for alcohol to jet, and subsequently, you can go for backward integration.
Thank you.
And just one more thing, you also asked about the policy supports, right? So specifically with respect to ESAP, if you look at the regulations, what are happening in UK and Europe, they have not just attractive buyout price for ESAF, they also have like some mandates. Like if you look at EU has close to 12 or 14% sub mandate for ESAF, and UK has 10% of that. So if something of that sort could also be done in India, we actually see a lot of filler being given to eSAF. And if you look at the price of green hydrogen, they are still struggling with 6 or 7 USD, right? Where in India is already less. So going forward, I do see that's a very
Taken your words, and also that eSAF is right now evolving. Even ICAO has just finalized its sustainability criteria for eSAF, which is not similar to the other sustainable aviation fuel. So yes, it's again the food for thought and something to work on for the near future, definitely, to make it happen. Now, we're having the final word from Air India, Mr. Neeraj Ranjan. How is Air India engaging with passengers and corporate customers on sustainability? Do you see scope for green fare options or voluntary SAF programs? And also, what kind of support mechanism would help scale SAF usage?
So, ma'am, on the morning we discussing was SAF is a new field. For each participation is important for them. Because the net zero target is not the individual airlines, it's the country targets and the industry targets. So each, either the passenger or the corporates, everybody will participate in this making possible. And we are looking for each participation so that it can be done. The target can be achieved because without the customer, without the corporate, because they also have to be reduce the scope 3 emission. So everybody participation is making happen in the right time. And if, like that in the morning, the Airbus has suggested that if this can be allowed in the CSR and the corporate can be allowed to reduce their scope 3 emissions, so this is also a wonderful suggestions to work it out. And any support, because we initially for the this year itself we signed CO2 Connect, a tool which is available which give rights emissions by each customer, each passenger, how much emissions can happen with the IATA. And that's actually calculate the each route that you travel, how much emissions can happen. So these tools are available, we start using the tools so that each customer is sensitized about it. And now globally that customers are aware about it, what the emissions that happen with the one travel, and gradually need to be worked out, because solution is only the SAF where we decarbonize it. Other airlines are already doing it. Technology, operation efficiency, we are doing it. But this need to be there, then of course we are working with them.
Yes, being the price sensitive market, it is very much important to start working on the strategies from now. And also Air India is leading by example. We think that the other airlines should also see what are other options are available and how can we work out for the strategies. Now, I think I have asked my pool of questions to the panelists. Do we have any questions from the audience? We can take 1 or 2 questions.
Good afternoon. This is Sekou. We are from a private equity firm from the US. Thank you for all that wisdom about SAP. It is really, really remarkable. We are always focused towards investment, so we just try to understand. We have already done a calculation of 1 ton of carbon saved otherwise in ethanol adoption and transportation. Gives us carbon credit benefit. And we are trying to work on structure, which we can structure green bonds. So is there any calculation available versus SAP also? Like if SAP adoption stops us to maybe save on fossil fuels, how much that would be converted into a monetary value? Because bond mechanism would be on the basis of value saved, right? So if there is any...
Do you target this question to any other panelists? Or
I don't know, I'm just trying to, maybe you people have done some internal studies which can help us. Thank you.
I don't know if I understood your question properly, but you want to see how much SAF blending will give the CO2 mitigation.
See, for example, if supposing I want to replace KTF completely, is it possible? If blending is the alternative, how much of blending can be done? If that much, so that, say for example, if we do 50% blending, so that would ultimately save how much of carbon by the current traffic worldwide and maybe in the future. And how does that translate into monetary value That would be something really interesting.
That can be done. Actually, right now the price is, see, the things will clear when you have a commercial chain supply is entering into the market right now. So when you have a full-fledged structure, you have each and every cost is there, then each and every component is clearly defined. Because LC analysis also, so many assumptions are to be taken. How much CO2 you are emitting during collection of these feedstocks in case of UCO. In case of ethanol, how much is the CO2 footprint of that ethanol till it is becoming a feedstock for SAF. All those things to be calculated, and then how much mitigation you are trying. Initial 1%, 2%, I think that time the economics is not going to deter too much because you are putting only very small amount of SAF into the entire 8-year pool. But once you want to go to beyond say 20%, 30% or even higher as the plan is there, then the cost becomes significantly bigger because you are blending a lot more amount of SAF into the actual fuel.
One more question which is related, I'm so sorry. The carbon credit that we get typically from other sources is trading around, around $8.5 in the international market. In Indian market, it is still quite less. So I'm just trying to understand the SAP related carbons that the credits will be, which we'll get, would they be better than the other credits which are happening? And is there any plan on why this? Because this gap of $2 in India makes it very less competitive. Thank you.
When we talk about carbon credits, I'll talk only in the terms of Corsia. So if you talk about Corsia, there is only one project worldwide which is supplying the Corsia carbon credits, which is based in Guyana, which is the rate for the carbon credit there is $22. And now the offsetting will start from the next year. So we are looking forward for more projects in the globally to come up. Then only we can see that how the pricing for the carbon credits is shaping up and what we can expect in India. Though we also have some projects in India, but they are not right now on COSIA certified. So we are in that process also, a parallel process that India projects also get certified. So once that starts, then only we can talk about the pricing mechanism and as such. And coming to your SAP blending points, that each pathway has different percentage of self blending. You cannot blend 50% in all the pathways. They range from 5 to 10%, 15%, 20%. Then the 50% is the maximum limit as of now. That is also under evaluation. So sooner we may see the higher blending percentage, but as of now, that is the maximum blending allowed. Okay, is this okay?
And just to add, there are two things which you are talking about. First is breaking the carbon, right? So that depends, what price you have in a different region, right? Tomorrow if India starts, project, we are yet to develop a price of SAP, even though we have a CCTS scheme. So when you start trading them, there might be a lower price. But if you look at the price, the carbon trading price, you can get even up to like 60-65 in EU, right? When you go to Japan or Korea, you get a price of 10 or 15. So you never know. And second thing is, which Victor was also trying to say that, and I also mentioned in my previous question was, different countries have different regulations, right? Let's say for example like UK they have a different bio price based on different carbon intensity. So if the SAF which you are making, if you are making a reduction of on 40%, anything in UK qualifies as SAF. But when you look at the certificates, you want to trade them, you have to go at least 70%. If you want to go beyond 70%, your carbon intensity has to be more low. And there are methodologies and a tool available for calculating this, which can be done.
Madam, sorry, one last question. In this recent meeting from the Brazilian delegation which had come, India has signed an FTA with them related to 100% ethanol blending, which they were doing. We were doing 2080. So then DTCA is the deciding authority about what blending percentage we could decide. So is there a benchmark that we cannot go beyond it? There is no technology existing to do that. So that we can expect that it can be 30% SAF, that means this much of monetary value, and this is how the financing can be started. Because 100% blending in the case of ethanol is extremely attractive.
I think you are talking about the road transport and
The road transport.
So I have no comments related to aviation right now.
Oh, okay.
Can I have a question?
The last, any other, just the last question.
This is Rita Saxena, editor of Aviation and Defense News. I wanted to understand from Mr. Ficci as to how much is your technology attracted the attention of the private sector in the refinery sector, basically, and also we have a very major worldwide famous alternative energy sector, which has always said that they want to get into SAF production. So have you been able to sell the technology to them?
Yeah, as of today, we have, there are projects in advanced stage wherein close to 300 million gallons of SAF has been committed by those projects, So we are working with the likes of, Australia, we are working with the government. This project Speedbird, which we have in UK, we have project in Japan, So along with, a lot of this information is in open domain, which I can disclose the names, like Project Speedbird is we're working along with Cosmo in Japan, with Qantas and Australia government, we are working in Australia.
In India, sir?
In India, we have whatever is out in public domain is, there's a JV which we are exploring with Indian Oil, and as part of that, the first process is you need to do engineering and make a BDEP. So BDEP development is underway, and that is a big plant. It would be 30 million gallon or 90 kg plant. And apart from that, we are in talks with other clients, but those are still not publicly open. But yes, we are in discussion, not only with refiners, also with power players and other entities, which have a lot of this waste carbon and which can be made SAF. See, in India, what people are looking at, they are still waiting for a favorable policy. And when you asked me, there were a couple of things which I couldn't mention, and thanks to your question that, you need to convert the indicative blend targets into mandates. That actually sets the ball rolling. Another thing is, which particularly, like we being a technology player, and I'm sure Mr. Krishna, you also must have seen the problem, that a lot of people talk about SAF, a lot of buzz is there, but once, not everyone understands that there has to be some investment to move a project, to take care of the pre-feed and the feed stages. If you look at like what UK has done, what other countries are doing, in July, UK's Department of Transport, they came out with a grant of 63 million, which was only to explore, the non-HEFA based, or as they call advanced SAF technologies. They were giving them grants so that they can bring the projects to a stage of feed. And why feed? Because to attract any investor, it's very important that you arrive at a cost of plus minus 10 to 15%. But how do you arrive at that, right? There's a work, a technology provider, you need to come out with the basic engineering design package, which forms the basic foundation of any project. And then you need an EPC player or a consultant, to carry out the feed, to arrive at that. And that entails some investment. So if that kind of support can be given here also in India, so SAP would really ask.
Can I take the question? Mine was directed to Mr. Nelly. It's about the Minister of Civil Aviation just mentioned that they're going to release a policy on SAF. So as a stakeholder, what are you seeking? And any challenges you think are like?
There is no challenges only until the SAF is available to us and we can able to take that thing. But what is important in case of India, if you look at the transport sector, the 20% ethanol blending IOC is doing for transport sector, there is no effect on the actual fuel price. The blending happens but it goes smoothly. Because any customer, any transport, anybody running the vehicle, they are using the same blended fuel. If similar mechanism can be done for the aviation sector, we don't have any issue. So that's the kind of incentive mechanism there. If you blend it and not affect the overall jet fuel price, then our airlines will be happy to do that blending. Do that because it's already done one sector, it can be just replicated in another sector. What are the incentive mechanisms? What are the mechanisms to make things happen?
One thing can be noted, that it's not direct ethanol, but it's ethanol to some other
It's a small sector.
so cost involved, and that's now that will be discussed.
Thank you.
I will request everyone that we have our panelists and even media available during the launch. We can have more discussions there. Any questions there we can take with them later. So I'll bring this session to an end.